Hey, what's up, guys? This video is about having your priorities in order. So I just left the pawn shop. I got a hustle going on, and I'll make frequent pickups from different pawn shops in my city. So pretty much get it, and I just sell it online. So that's what that is. So so I went in there today, and well, before I actually pulled up on the premises, I saw this. It's a Escalade. It's an Escalade. Yeah, a Cadillac Escalade 600. So I know they got different models, whatever. So somebody who into that stuff, whatever, you let me know. But it was a Cadillac Escalade, and it's 600 base trim model. It says 600 at the bottom, and it has some aftermarket wheels. So when I was pulling in, I'm like, okay, this is not gonna be good. this, I'm gonna say this too. You don't have to be, poor to shop at the pawn shop, or, you go to Goodwill, or you don't have to be poor to do that. You know what I mean? You just want to make that loud and clear. But in this particular area I'm in, it wasn't good. I'm like, no, this doesn't make any sense. So I went inside, and there's a couple customers there. It's like, it's a family, it's a family by the jewelry section, and there's a guy at the counter. It doesn't matter, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's a black guy. So I'm like, okay, that's him. Because well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Both parties was busted. Straight up busted, like tattered clothes, just, out of shape, just busted. So I'm just being clear. So, but I know, how black people, even though I say brown, but you guys get what I'm saying. I know how they operate. So I'm like, okay, that's the guy, that's him. Not the family over there by the jewelry section. I'm like, no, it definitely ain't, it definitely ain't y'all. Y'all, I see it was a busted up Ford Focus or something, whatever that is, some kind of Ford little crossover thing. It was a whole raggedy little thing. I'm like, it's definitely not them. It's this guy. So, me getting ready to make a purchase, he was talking about shoes automatically. While I was saying, he's like, oh, I'm gonna pick up the red ones and the black ones next time. I'm like, okay. It's gonna be Jordans 9 times out of 10. It's gonna be some kind of Jordans, most likely. There's some shoes. It's obviously some shoes. And I'm like, all right, he's not buying anything. He got a loan. So keep in mind, I told you guys when I was pulling up what I saw. It's a Cadillac Escalade, a 600 with some aftermarket wheels at the pawn shop in the parking lot. I'm like, all right, I pulled up not right next to it, but I pulled up on the same side. That was parked on the building. The same size as the building it was parked, but yeah, that's what it was. So I'm like, okay, so he came here for a loan, and I don't know what this guy got going on. Didn't ask him, don't care, but more than likely he's probably a truck driver, because the way he looked, it's like, yeah, you don't. I can tell you don't. If you do make some kind of money, you haven't been making it for a long time. Because I'm looking at him like, he wearing these busted up ass clothes. And he's just a fragile little dude. I'm like, normally when you making good money, and I told you guys before all the time, depending on what city, what state you're in, right? Of course, if we talking about LA, New York, the kind of money that you be making over there in fucking Omaha, Nebraska, is gonna be totally different, right? The cost of living, all this stuff like that. But I could tell, just by looking, I could tell, okay, whatever he, if he is making some kind of money, he hadn't been making it long enough. So he's an older dude, like, definitely in his late 40s. So I'm like, okay, most likely he's a truck driver. Not shitting on truck drivers, but the way he looked, I'm like, it's either gonna be a truck driver, or you're gonna do like, you're working for, a trash company, you're driving a trash truck. It's gonna be something like that. It's not gonna be nothing, oh yeah, I'm the lead, engineer in my tech firm. It's not gonna be nothing like that. Just looking at it, I already know it wasn't gonna be no high-end job like that. It definitely wasn't gonna be nothing sophisticated whatsoever. It's gonna be something pretty basic, but it makes pretty good money. So it's either gonna be one of them two. You know what I mean? So maybe a plumber or something like that, I don't know. But the way he looking is like, yeah, because you're gonna look, at some point in life, you're gonna look, if you tell somebody what you do, it's more than likely it's gonna compliment, you're gonna compliment your job, right? Like it's gonna go hand in hand. Like if you're a lawyer, you're not gonna be walking around, and I don't know, like a good example of it be a lawyer. You're not gonna be walking around like in just you're gonna look like you're a lawyer. Somebody tell you, like, you guys what I'm saying, right? Like most lawyers, how do most lawyers look? They tend to be tall and slim, or short and slim. Now you got some fat back lawyers, yeah, but the average look for a lawyer is gonna be what? It's usually gonna be tall and slim. Same thing for a doctor. He's gonna be tall and slim, or it's gonna be short and slim. They have a certain look to them, right? If they make sense. Just bear with me, guys. I tell you, I'm gonna get a phone. Matter of fact, I'll get it this week. I promise you. So just bear with me with the wobbly phone. But you're gonna have a certain look to you. Now, if you're a owner of a large company, you're gonna look a certain way. Now, if you work at Amazon, in a warehouse, you're gonna look a certain way. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? So there we go. So the way he looked, it was odd based off, the vehicle he was driving. Now we can say, oh, maybe he was driving his brother, vehicle or whatever. Yeah, I hear you, but nah, that wasn't the case. So he's, either way, he's just something like that. Either way, he's working. So, I hate to see grown ass men now. Well, I hate to see guys that doesn't work at all. I just hate to see that. And just there's so many of them walking the streets not doing nothing. So, any guy that's working, that's a great. I love to see it. It's great. But anyway, so he got a loan on a whole bunch of designer shoes, and he was getting some of them out. And I'm like, that sounds about right. So normally, again, it goes back to if he is making some kind of, obviously he's doing okay. If he's driving that around, I mean, obviously he ain't pay cash for it, right? Just telling you guys what it is. But normally when somebody that never made a lot of money and they start to make a lot of money, what do? They start spending like crazy. So the car, the aftermarket wheels, him buying all these luxury shoes, and then he had to end up pawning all of them. That's a dead giveaway. So of course, I told you guys, he's up there. He's in his late 40s. He's close to his 50s. So that lets me know this is all new to him. So when he started making some pretty good money, he just started blowing the money. So for him to be at the pawn shop, and on top of that, if you want to say like, oh, well, maybe he ran across, he stumbled a bit in life. So, he was throwing a curveball. Yeah, I understand that, right? I understand it, but it's how you go about it, right? But the fact that if that was true, he would have got all his stuff out that same day. So that lets me know that whatever he's doing, he's not doing that great. He's doing okay. Because again, if you go to the pawn shop, it's only so much they'll give you, right? Like typically they tend to give you half of whatever the product is worth. That's normally how they do. That's how they work. So anyway, however many shoes he has, I think, whatever, 2, 6, whatever pairs he have, if that was the case, like, oh, life threw him a curveball and he just tried to get everything back together. If that was true, then he would have got everything out. That's how I know he's not making a lot of money. Because you go in there with whatever designer you want to bring to them, they're only going to give you half of what they could, what the market, what it's selling for in the market. So if I see a whole bunch of purses in there, high-end purses. So the purse is $2,300, $1,500. That's pretty much the price for it. So they're not gonna. If you go in there right now, the market say, all right, they selling for $1,500. You go to the pawn shop, they're not gonna give you $1,200. They're not even gonna give you $1,000 for it. They gonna literally give you half of that. This is how it works. So anyway, if he had, life threw him a curveball and he was getting everything back together, he literally, if he had enough money, well, first off, if he had enough money, he would have had, he would have had enough money to absorb that hit. So that lets me know right there he didn't have enough money. And then on top of that, he pawned all this luxury shoes, and now instead of him getting it all out at one time, because remember, when they get there, they give it all to him at one time. So with that being said, if you had enough money, that day when I left, you should have been getting all your shoes out instead of you over there making scheduled payments for the rest of them, the extending, whatever like that. So that's how I know he's not making enough. So that's how you know somebody that started making some pretty good money is when they start just blowing the money. Like they just start spending like crazy. And for him being, up in age, it's like, damn, I'm gonna say this too. You can hit the lotto tonight and it'll change your life forever, right? But it just let you know it's not really a time frame on when you will start making a lot of money. I hear it all the time. They say guys don't make their financial stride until they get in their 40s, late 30s, but really in their 40s. But anyway, it let me know that he has a poor mentality because you didn't bought that vehicle where you know, you just be honest, you're paying on that vehicle, but you don't have any money. And I tell you guys all the time, it's like, it's best just to have the money. That way you really can, because I see it all the time, man. Like guys, you know, they get these new cars, but they can barely keep any gas in it. And then you already know they got the insurance in their grandma's name. If she's still alive, if not, they got to put in their mama name. That way the insurance won't be so high. Then the car note is literally all their money. When in reality, they should have got them a decent car, and then they would have had all the money. That way they can take all the females out. So what was happening, like I said, when we was Club of Life, all them girls that they really wanted to talk to, they couldn't keep them because they couldn't do nothing with them. It's like, besides just sex, but it's like, okay, well, if she likes, that's gonna happen anyway. But the fact that they wasn't able to take her out, you know, back then, they wasn't just, oh, you gotta make $3 million a month. No, they're like, okay, I like them. Hey, you know, take me out over here, over there. Then, you know, that's gonna, you know, and everything else is gonna come into play because they like it. They're gonna do that anyway. But the fact that they wasn't able to take them out, they missed out on that opportunity. So all they had was just a car, and then of course, I'm gonna say this, I don't care what kind of car you drive, within a couple months, you're gonna get used to it. Let alone you have it for more than a year, you ain't even worried about how it look no more. You're like, all right, it's just a regular car, that's how you're gonna see it. So the fact that he had the car for years, you know, because remember, they trying to pay it off. You ain't gonna pay it off about another, like, 4 years. So within that 4 years, you just struggling. Instead of you just getting something you can just easily pay off, or just buy some cash, and then you keep all the money to yourself, and then you can start, you know, finding a better job and all this stuff like that. But since you so focused on the car, because the car note got you in the chokehold, that's all you got a tunnel vision. That's all you worried about. Just, oh, I just got to make enough to pay my car note. That's all you focus on, the car note. So if you do go somewhere, you only got a little bit of change, but if you run across a female or females, you can't take them out. You can't take them out to the movies to get something to eat, none of that. So all that you can do is just talk to her, and hopefully she just cool with just coming to your place and just sleeping with you, and that's it. Because you got nothing to offer. You ain't got no Netflix, so ain't no chilling. You know what I mean? It's awkward. You got no internet at home. So she go over there, she want to hang out with you, she feel uncomfortable because you don't have any amenities. You don't have anything to make her feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Then, especially if you're really down bad, your AC ain't gonna be on like it's supposed to. You're gonna have it turned off. So she in there sweating. You ain't got no Netflix. You don't have no internet. So she in there bored out of her mind. So guess what? She gonna entertain the next guy that has those things. So that's the thing about it. It's like, you over here spending all this money, but in reality, you still broke. I'll tell you how far I ran across a couple of doctors that was living paycheck to paycheck. Because that's the thing about it. Old habits die hard. They've been so used to spending money that they became, you know, now they're paycheck to paycheck, and now they're in debt. Because remember, they make pretty good money. It obviously depends on, you know, what kind of doctor you are, right? If I'm talking about a regular old doctor, they make pretty good money, but it's not enough for them to buy a car cash. It's not enough for them to buy a house cash. So what do? They just, oh, I got enough for a down payment, and then they put down their car, they put down their house. Normally what they do, they'll get both. They'll put down a brand new house, then they'll put down a brand new car. Now the certified used car, not a house that somebody else was living in. No, it gotta be brand new with the stickers on it and everything. The first time, you know, first homeowner, you gotta be the first one in that house. And they don't care how much it costs. All they know is, well, I got enough to put down on it. I can afford the monthly payments. And then they go ahead and do that. And then next thing you know, they keep spending money every time they get, well, they spending money before they get paid. And then next thing you know, it all catches up with them to where they monthly bill expenses like $15,000, $10,000 a month just for their monthly expenses. Now on top of the stuff they gotta take care of, their food, their cell phone, you know, like whatever else they gotta talk, you know, fuel, insurance, you know, all that stuff started to pile up on them. So now they paycheck to paycheck. So now they going to work miserable because they slave. Now they got to slave away at it. Instead of them, okay, well, I normally only work 5 days. Now they working 6. They trying to work 7. You know what I mean? They working longer hours because they trying to fund this lifestyle. So the guy at the pawn shop is not a surprise, but again, everything about this, by me scanning him for a few seconds, it let me know everything about him. You know what I mean? I seen he had the vehicle parked outside. The Cadillac Escalade 600, aftermarket wheels. The guy's all just scrawny and raggedy ass clothes. I'm like, okay, well, the way, obviously, how you're dressing, that's why I said he probably, nothing against truck drivers and, guys who work for sanitation, nothing like that. But 9 times out of 10, that's what he's doing. Or, he probably working for, Metro or whatever, driving the bus, he probably doing, 612s or 7, whatever. Because the way he was dressed, it didn't complement the vehicle. Now, of course, you'll look nice if you had some nice clothes on. You know, when I say nice, you don't need no high-end clothes. You can get you a regular white tee, get some regular jeans, shorts. You get some regular old shoes, and you good to go. But he was just raggedy, nigga. I mean, sorry about that. The guy needed a haircut. You know what I mean? He was just beat up. So I'm like, yeah, you ain't doing nothing that requires you to be on the phone. You know, you ain't making no deals. I'm saying like that. You know, and you're not a contractor. You're not. I mean, as far as you're the one that's in charge of the contractors. You know what I mean? You're not a site manager. You're not over here approving loans at the bank. He's doing nothing like that. He does some kind of physical labor job. This what that is. So, you know, this is what it is. But the fact that he was at the pawn shop and he had to get a loan, that sealed the deal. Okay, all right, he wanted them. You know, he came across, a little extra money, and he didn't know how to manage it correctly. And I'm gonna say this too, because this is a sad truth. You got a lot of guys that want to have a certain lifestyle, but because they have a family or they take care of, a female, that's what's keeping them back, and that's what's keeping them from, reaching their goals. Now, it may not be important to you, but everybody wants something, right? But the fact that you can get it, but somebody's holding you back from getting it, that's torture. And then you got to deal with that all your life, because some guys will never get to that point, right? This is what it is. Like, you got so many kids, and on top of that, she probably got child support on some of the kids. You probably got 2-3 baby mamas, and knowing that you could have got that nice house, you could have got that nice car, but you got all these obstacles in the way to where that's not going to happen. And normally, what I see is like, you'll see the older guys. Like when I say older guys, is in their 50s and up. You'll see them in a nice ass car. Matter of fact, I had delivery last year. It was at a little small shopping center, and it was an older guy outside. It was a nice BMW. It was a nice little sedan, little sport. It was a sport. You can tell it was a sports type. I'm not too familiar with BMWs, but it was a sports BMW, sports car, some kind of sedan sports car. It was like I think it was like green or something like that, but it was nice. And then it was an old guy. He came out. He met me. He's like, oh, he's the owner, not of the shopping center, but he's the owner. It's a boutique he was opening up, so I was just delivering supplies to him. And, he talked to me for a bit. He's a retired police officer, and he got a crazy ass pension, and that's where he got all his money from. But then him just being a police officer, and he got his pension, and he's set for life. Now he just doing little investments just to keep him busy, something to keep him busy. But he got a clean ass car. He got a lot of money, but he was in his 60s. I'm like, shit. I'm like, well, that's cool, but I want it now. You know what I mean? I don't want to wait until I'm like in retirement for me to be like, oh yeah, now I can get this car, now I can get this house. Like, nah, nobody wants to do that, right? Obviously, you want to get it when when you're young. That way you can enjoy it even longer. But when you that old and you start getting stuff like that, it's like, yeah, it's cool, but it's like it's not the same. You know what I mean? If you hit the lotto in your mid 60s, it's not gonna be the same if you hit the lotto in your 20s. It's just not gonna be the same. First of all, nobody gonna care. You know what I mean? You're not gonna have that same kind of attention, whether you care for it or not, and it's just different. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the same. Like, if you ask anybody, that's a no-brainer. Hey man, would you want to hit the lotto in your 60s, or would you want to hit the lotto in your 20s? 100% everybody gonna say in their 20s, because your life is going to be just crazy at that age compared to you being in your retirement years. Like, well, you're not going to want to do, or you can't do the type of stuff you would want to do in your 20s, because like, your open age, you ain't gonna want to do it. You probably want to do it at first when you was younger, but as you get older, stuff change, so it's not gonna be the same. It's not gonna be the same like if your 20s, if you hit the lotto, like, oh, you're gonna be everywhere, you're gonna do all kind of stuff. But in your retirement age, like, nah, it's gonna be cool, don't be wrong, but it's like, it's not gonna hit the same. So anyways, it's all about money management. Me seeing that's not the first time. I see that all the time, but it's just, I guess at that particular time, it was perfect timing. But yeah, it was one of the newest ones. I don't keep up with with the cars much, but I know it's one of the newest ones, because it looked pretty new, probably a couple years old or something. But it was the latest model, I'll say. Well, not the latest, but it was an up-to-date model, I'll say that. It's probably like a year or two old, but it was a 600 Cadillac Escalade 600 aftermarket wheels, and he was pawning all his luxury shoes, all his high-end shoes, and he was slowly getting them out. Again, if he really had the money, he wouldn't be at the pawn shop trying to get a loan. And if he did, and on top of that, if he did have money, whatever happened to him, like whatever curveball that was thrown at him, that money he would already had saved up would have absorbed that. That way, he wouldn't even thought about going to the pawn shop. And then third, if he really had the money, he would have got all his stuff out at the same time. So that's how you know right there what's going on with them financially. Because this gonna go to a pawn shop don't mean, oh, he poor. No. You got people that go to damn Goodwill all the time buying stuff. They got money. So don't think, because no. You got it highly mistaken. That's like seeing somebody in an old ass Honda Accord and they broke. No. I done met a whole bunch of people that drive a Honda Accord, old cars, and they driving these damn mansions. Don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? So don't judge a book by its cover. But in this scenario, because I know black people, /Brown, he got terrible money management skills. That's all it is to it. So again, if he had the money, whatever happened to him financially, the money he would have had saved up would absorb that. On top of that, he wouldn't have been at the pawn shop. On top of that, if he had the money, he would have been able to get all this stuff out at one time. He over there getting, a couple pieces here, a couple pieces there. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna take him a couple months to get all this stuff out. You know what I mean? Because keep in mind, he brought all that at one time. But that's what it is, man. Just, if you can, do whatever it's up to you, right? If you can afford it, easily afford it, do whatever. It's your money. But if you know you gotta save up to make any payments on anything, it's not your time. And I'm not saying it's not for you at all, but right now it's not the time for you to do that. You shouldn't be saving up 2 paychecks to pay your car note. You shouldn't be saving up 3 or 4 paychecks to pay your rent. Because so many females, like I said, so many females downtown in these high rises, all they do is just work just to pay their rent. They literally got to save up 2 weeks. Because some people get paid twice a month, and some people get paid 4 times a week, 4 times a month. So, but these females, they'll save up they whole paycheck for the month just to pay their rent, and then the little extra money they got left over, they over there begging for money. That's why they always out, right? That's why you always see them out, because they ain't got nothing at home. They don't have a damn microwave. They don't have a TV. They don't have a bed. So that's why they always outside. They look for dudes to take care of them, random strangers to take care of them. So this is the honest truth. So you shouldn't be saving up to pay for nothing. If you can't pay for it within your first check, it ain't for you, man. You need to go figure something else out. But yeah, that's just reality. A lot of guys don't want to face it. They want to pretend. You know what I mean? They be like, oh, I'm just gonna blow the money. You go, nah, that's not how it works, man. Because at the end of the day, guys like that who got a nice vehicle, even though he ain't gonna never pay it off, just keeping it real, because the way he going, he ain't gonna pay it off. This is what it is. So even if he's staying at his mama house, his mama or his grandma's house, and the house paid off for, like, it's only a matter of time. So because the way you going about it, that's not how people move that has money. And I'm saying this too. So I know your credit fucked up because you're at the pawn shop. Why? Well, his credit is fucked up because if his credit was on point, he would have went to the bank and got a loan. That's how that works. Well, you got a Cadillac Escalade, that don't mean nothing. Anybody can get a tax return check. Anybody can save up 3 or 4, 5 months. You got people that'll save up that long. You got people that save up longer than that, but they'll buy cash. Anybody can save up 3 or 4 months, 5 months for a down payment. Anybody can do that. So I already know the vehicle has he has a high interest rate. If anything, he probably got his girlfriend, his baby mama, whatever. That's normally how they'll do that. But other than that, no, it ain't enough for somebody to save up 3, 4, 5 months to put down on the vehicle. So that's nothing. But that's the key. That's how you know his finances are messed up, because if your credit was on point, you just go to the bank and get a loan. That's simple. That's simple. Or you go to one of these, these payday loans, which never do that. But you gotta do what you gotta do, right? But if your credit, because they go off of credit as well too, right? The better your credit is, the interest rate will be jacked up, whatever. But at the end of the day, if your credit was on point, you just go to the bank and get a loan, or you go to one of these loan companies and they'll give you a loan. So that told me everything right there, but I didn't even have to talk to him. I figured that all out within 10 seconds. The moment I was pulling into the pawn shop, and then the moment I walked inside, I scanned the area. Okay, that's the guy who's driving the Cadillac Escalade, the 600 with the aftermarket wheels, and he's slowly getting out his luxury shoes, his high-end shoes. So they told me everything right there. So he's chasing something that he can't. I'm gonna say this too. He possibly can live that life as far as the vehicles. He ain't got both. He don't have the nice. You gotta, if you got a high-end vehicle, the house has to match. This is how it go. The house has to match. So he's not staying nowhere high-end. He's not staying nowhere nice. He's staying in the ghetto somewhere in the hood, and he got the vehicle. So all this money go to that car note, and then a little extra money he have, he'll go to the mall and go buy him some Gucci jeans or something, whatever. That's all he focused on. He want to look the part. He not worried about actually being the part. So if he take his time and strategize, Yeah, he can have him a nice vehicle. Yeah, he can have him a nice car. But I'm gonna say this right now: if you're only making $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, well, shit, I hate to break it to you, because that damn car note is $3,500 a month, not including the full coverage that you must have, because they're not gonna take a chance on no brand new ass, high-end vehicle, and you ain't got no insurance. Fuck liability. No. The moment you stop having full coverage, they picking it up. This ain't no damn 1998 Acura that you bought from Jose's honest car dealership. They don't give a damn about that car. Like, yeah, whatever, man. He made payments. Don't give a shit. You ain't gotta have no insurance on that, because he bought the car for $200, and then he got you leasing it for $18,000. So he already made his money. By the time he made the second payment, he already got his money out the car. He not worried about that. So everything has to go in order. So if he actually take his time playing right, he can have that kind of life he's looking for. But at a certain age, they feel like they gotta hurry up and get to it, because they feel like they'll never get to it. They are, again, the dude already in his late 40s, so he didn't get the opportunity in his 20s and his 30s. So now he's trying to make up for lost time. Like, it's a race. It's not a race, bro. It's a marathon. So I'm gonna say this again: if you only making $2,000, $3,000 a month, you ain't got enough money to live that kind of lifestyle. But you got people that's so desperate, they'll just do whatever they gotta do to get some of it. Because again, you can't get all of it. So your car note, what, $2,500, $3,500 a month? Y'all let me know how much them car notes for them damn Cadillac Escalades, them 600s go for. Y'all let me know down below. On top of that, the full coverage, and then you trying to get you a nice house. The nice house, what, 400, 400,000, 385. So the car, the mortgage on that is what, $2,000 on that? Probably a little less than that, you know what I mean? But still, so how are you able to afford the $2,500 car note, and then you got the mortgage in a nice neighborhood? The houses go for, high 300s and up. So your mortgage gonna be $1,500, and you only make $3,000 a month. So in most cases, they're like, well, shoot, ain't nobody got to know where I live, so I'll just give me a car. And they think I'm just ball out of control. That's how they'll go about it, because you can be very convincing if you have a vehicle. Because keep in mind, like, you can't drive your house. So most time people just get them a nice car, and then they'll be living somewhere shitty. I see that all the time. So yeah, that's all it is. Not bashing the guy, but again, if he knew better, he'd do better. But that's typical, ghetto mentality. It's like, bro, like, you don't make enough, and on top of that, you over there just blowing money. So it's gonna catch up with him, because something gonna give. You run across a female, and he's the kind of guy like, oh, look what I got. Look what I got. Females don't be caring about that. You got some that do, but at the end of the day, they still gotta like you. But he one of them guys like, oh, look what I got. Instead of him actually having a great personality, know how to talk to him, know how to charm the females. He don't have that. I can look at him like, yeah, you ain't got it, playboy. You just use material things to try to. That's all it's about. So if you know somebody like this, then y'all let me know down below, because I know I ain't crazy. I see it all the time. You probably one of them. If not, I'm pretty sure you know somebody like this. But yeah, it's all about money management skills, man. Having your priorities in check. So first thing first, get your money up, get your credit up, and then everything else will follow. That's just how it works, man. Life is not perfect, right? But I notice the more money you make, the less stressful your life is. That's what I came across. So maybe I'm not correct on that part, but for me, my personal experience, the more money I make, the less stressful my life is. So guys, keep that in mind. So anyway, if you like the video, let me know down below. Make sure you like, subscribe. If you can donate something to the Cash App, I really appreciate you. And yeah, until next time.